NASCAR is a team sport like many other professional sporting leagues around the world. Teams in NASCAR are unique in that they sometimes have multiple teams under their umbrella competing against each other. Imagine if the Yankees fielded two MLB teams, or the Packers had two NFL teams. In the sport's 75-year history, we have seen many teams come and go. Some are new to the scene, and others have been around for over half a century. Hi, I'm your host Matt, and this is NASCAR Team History, presented by Dogleg Media. In this series, we look to tell the stories of the different teams in our sport. We will explore a wide range of topics in respect to the history of each team, when they entered NASCAR, their drivers, their numbers, and overall legacy. We will also include memorable moments from you, the viewer. Today we take a look at one of NASCAR's premier teams, the history of Team Penske. But with that out of the way, let's dive into some more NASCAR team history. Team Penske is a powerhouse in motorsports, with NASCAR's Cup Series being one of their main competitors. Today we focus on their Cup program, but we will give a nod to their other programs as well. Let's take a look at some basics of Team Penske. The team was founded in 1972. They've earned 140 total wins with 10 different drivers, and they've brought home 3 championship trophies. As discussed, Team Penske's foray into NASCAR began in 1972. Roger Penske was already established in the IndyCar series, with their driver Mark Donohue making the team's first start. The first race for the team would happen at Riverside in 1972. They would run AMC Matadors to start. These cars were called the Flying Brick because of their boxy shape and aerodynamics. While 1972 wouldn't see a win in NASCAR, they would win their first of 19 Indy 500 trophies, with Mark Donohue behind the wheel. Donohue would not only get the team their first Indy 500 win, he would also get the team their first ever NASCAR win. He would win in his 5th start at Riverside in 1973. From 1972 until 1980, Penske would only run one full-time season, in 1976, with Bobby Allison. While Allison would win 3 races with Penske in his time, this full-time season would not see a win. It would be the team's first season not running the AMC Matador, making its last start in that season's opener at Riverside. After that season opener, they would switch to Mercury. Regardless of having a winless season, Allison would record 15 top 5s in a 29-race season, finishing a very strong 4th in the points. After 1980, Penske would sell his equipment to the Elliott family, and they would leave the sport entirely for 11 years. In 1991, Penske would make a return, and they would land Rusty Wallace and his Miller Beer sponsorship for a reunion of the ages. Penske has fielded a full-time entry every season since 1991, and has won 3 championships in that time, becoming a powerhouse of the sport. The team has operated under multiple different names since its inception. It would run under the Penske Racing name from 1972 until 1980, and then from 1991 until 1997. In 1998, Penske would merge with Michael Cranefuss, forming Penske Cranefuss Racing. This would see the arrival of Jeremy Mayfield to the team as well. They would run under this banner from 1998 until 2000. In 2001, the team would drop the Cranefuss name, and would instead opt for the name Penske Racing South to differentiate it from their open wheel side. They would run under this name from 2001 until 2003. In 2004, Penske would buy a share in Jasper Motorsports in order to run the 77 for Brendan Gaughan under the Penske name. The team would be known as Penske Jasper Racing until the end of the 2005 season. After that season, Penske would dissolve the partnership and drop the Jasper nameplate. From 2006 until 2008, the team would go back to the Penske Racing South name. And then in 2009 and 2010, they would have a totally different name, running as Penske Championship Racing. In 2011, they would revert back to the simple Penske Racing name, and they would hold this until the end of 2013, where they would rename to their current team name. That's right, Team Penske would come about in 2014, and has held this name since. I don't understand why this team has had such a complicated history with their names, but hey, that's history, and kind of the whole point of this series. Next, let's look at the different full-time numbers the team has fielded, their drivers, and the complete history of every Penske win ever. And we start this segment off with the first ever number. When Roger Penske would enter the NASCAR Cup Series in 1972, they would run the number 16. The 16 would have 4 total wins with 2 different drivers for the team. This would be the number that Mark Donohue would make the team's first start in. It would also be the number that would make Penske a winner in NASCAR, with Donahue's win at Riverside in 1973. The paint scheme that Donahue would run was ran by Joey Logano during the 2023 Throwback Weekend at Darlington. This was a super special throwback that a history nut like me loved to see. Donahue would make 6 starts in the Cup Series, and all 6 of those would be in the Penske 16. Dave Marcus, Donnie Allison, Gary Bettenhausen, and George Fulmer would all make select starts in the 16 as well from 1972 until 1977. And then Bobby Allison would run the 16 and 19 races during the 1975 season and would collect 3 wins that year, including the Southern 500. Allison would be the team's first full-time driver as well, but in a number still to be discussed. And the last notable driver of the 16 for Penske would be Rusty Wallace, who would make his first 2 starts of his career in the 16 during the 1980 season. These would also be the last 2 starts for Penske before taking their 11-year hiatus from the sport. And Rusty would come up 1 spot shy of winning in his first ever race, finishing 2nd at Atlanta. That's pretty impressive. These 2 starts for Rusty Wallace would be the last for the 16 in its time with Penske Racing. And now we move on to the staple Penske number. It's the 2, and man does it have history with 2 Hall of Famers and another 2 future Hall of Famers. It has 80 total wins with the team, with 4 different drivers. The first to drive the 2 for Penske would be Dave Marcus. He would make 8 starts in it between 1972 and 1973. So yeah, the 2 has been a part of the Team Penske stable from the very beginning. He would then make another 12 starts in the number in 1977, with 5 top 5s. The team's first full-time season would be ran in the 2, with Bobby Allison doing so in 1976. We talked about this season in the Origin segment, and it was honestly a glimpse of things to come. The 2 would then be the number for the revival of Team Penske in 1991 with Rusty Wallace. Wallace would win 37 times, including a 10-win season in 1993 where he would come up short of the championship, finishing 2nd. He would pilot the 2 from 1991 until his retirement in 2005. He is also the winningest driver in the 2, barely edging out 2nd place, who we will get to shortly. Rusty is a Hall of Famer and was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2013. And next up on our list for the 2 is Kurt Busch. He would take over the ride for a retiring Rusty Wallace. He would run it from 2006 until 2010. In those 5 seasons, he would amass 8 wins. There are times when I think of Kurt's time in the 2 as a fever dream, and then there are other times like the feud at the All-Star race with his brother that allow me to remember his time with it very vividly. Kurt is a champion of the sport, and is without a doubt a future Hall of Famer, yet another one to pilot the famous Blue Deuce. After Kurt Busch would be moved to the 22 for a season, it was time for Penske's first champion to take the reins. Brad Keselowski would move from the 12 into his new home of the 2. He would shine in this new seat, running it from 2011 until 2021, where he would win 34 times. He would then grab the last achievement Roger Penske was chasing for his time in the Cup Series, a championship. Keselowski would win the 2012 Cup Series championship in just his 2nd season with the number. This would also be the last season that Dodge would run in NASCAR, going out on top. Keselowski would also be the last driver to don the Miller Lite sponsorship. This is one of the saddest sponsorship departures in the sport's history, right up there with Lowe's and M&M's. Brad K is another future Hall of Famer, and who knows, maybe he can add to his legacy as an owner-driver as well. And finally, that brings us to the current driver of the Penske 2 car. Austin Cindric would grab the keys to the ride in 2022, as Brad Keselowski would depart to become an owner-driver at RFK. He couldn't have had a better start to a rookie season either, winning the Daytona 500 in his first start with the number. This is still the last win for the number, but what a win it was. This would also cement a Daytona 500 win for each of Penske's 3 main numbers, with the 12 and 22 winning them previously. Cindric is currently experiencing one of the worst sophomore slumps in recent memory. Can the Xfinity Series champion and Daytona 500 winner turn it around and bring the 2 the rightful success it's accustomed to? Let me know down below. And that brings us to the 12. This would be the 3rd number ever ran by Team Penske, and would grab the team's 2nd ever win. It has 24 total wins for Team Penske, with 4 different drivers. The first to drive the 12 for Penske would be Bobby Allison. He would make 6 starts in the 12 during the 1974 season. Allison would win after just 6 starts in the number at Ontario that season. This would be the team's 2nd ever win in the Cup Series. The number would be absent from the Penske stable until a merger with Michael Cranefuss in 1998 would bring his number 12 to the team, with driver Jeremy Mayfield. Mayfield would run the 12 from 1998 until 2001, where he would collect 3 wins in the time. Mayfield would be injured in a scary crash during practice for the 2000 Brickyard 400, and as a result of this crash, he would miss 2 races. Kyle Petty, after failing to qualify his own car for the race, would run the Brickyard in the 12, and Tommy Hubert would fill in for the following week's race at the Glen. Mayfield would be released after the Fall Kansas race in 2001, and Rusty Wallace's brother Mike Wallace would fill the seat for the remainder of the season. Rumors circulated that Mayfield intentionally burned bridges to get an early arrival to Evernham Motorsports, and Rusty Wallace even said he couldn't see head-to-head with Mayfield as a teammate and that they often had feuds. This would pave the way for the next driver of the 12. Rocket Man Ryan Newman would take over the driving duties of the 12 in 2002, and man, what a start he would have. Newman would win his first race at New Hampshire that season in a rain-shortened event, and he would finish an impressive 6th place in the standings. This would be good enough to earn him the Rookie of the Year award that season. He would pilot the 12 from 2002 until 2008, and in that time he would win 13 times, including winning the team's first Daytona 500. What's even more impressive about this win in 2008 was that it was Team Penske's first ever win at a super speedway. I didn't believe this stat at first, but it's absolutely true and absolutely wild as well. With Newman departing at season's end, David Stremme would fill the seat for the majority of the 2009 season. He would struggle heavily, netting 0 top 10s. Stremme would be replaced by up-and-comer Brad Keselowski for the last 3 races of the 2009 season. That year, the 12 finished 31st in points, its worst season ever as a full-time number. Brad Keselowski would come back full-time for 2010, and while this season wasn't much better, he would score the number's first top 10 since 2008. He would end that season 25th in points, with 2 top 10s. The number didn't see the track at all in 2011, and from 2012 until the end of 2014, it would only make 6 total starts with 3 different drivers. Sam Hornish Jr. would make 2 starts, both at Kansas in 2012 and 2013. A young Ryan Blaney would run 2 races in 2014, one at Kansas and the other at Talladega. And finally, Juan Pablo Montoya would run 2 races as well in 2014, at Michigan and Indianapolis. The 12 would then sit dormant from 2015 until the 2018 season. And that brings us to our current full-time driver of the 12, Ryan Blaney. Blaney would move to the Penske 12 after spending his rookie season at the affiliated Wood Brothers in 2017. Since 2018, Blaney has scored 7 wins, including a win at the Coca-Cola 600 in 2023 to break a long winless drought. Blaney has immense talent. Do you think he will overtake Ryan Newman for winningest driver in the Penske 12? Let me know. And now on to the final main staple number of the Team Penske lineup. This one has a fairly short history with the team, but what it has done in this short time is incredible. The 22 has 32 total wins with 2 different drivers. The first to drive the Penske 22 would be Kurt Busch. This would be a stopover after Brad Keselowski would take over the 2 car. In Kurt's lone season with the 22 in 2011, he would score 2 wins and finish 11th in the standings. Kurt would have another messy breakup with the team, after an altercation at Homestead led to him lashing out about the 22 car not being able to compete for championships. He does maintain that this breakup was mutual, and that he and Penske still have a relationship. For 2012, AJ Allmendinger would be the driver in the 22. He would run 17 races for Penske before failing a drug test prior to the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona. He was removed from the car, and Sam Hornish Jr. would finish the season with the number. AJ scored 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s in his time, while Hornish would score a lone top 5 at Watkins Glen. Penske would then strike gold in 2013, landing free agent Joey Logano from Gibbs. Since 2013, Logano has won 30 races with the number and 2 championships. He has cemented himself as a certain future Hall of Famer. He would also get the team their second Daytona 500 win in 2015. And speaking of 2015, that was certainly a season that looked to end in a championship, until Martinsville in the fall. Matt Kenseth would wreck Logano intentionally, this being revenge for Logano spinning Kenseth for the win at Kansas. I personally hated this move, but let me know your thoughts. Are you Team Kenseth or Team Logano? No matter who you side with though, it is clear that Logano is the leader of the Penske stable. and at just 33 years old, he easily could add another 30 plus wins and even more championships. And the final number that Penske would run full time would be the 77. This one really doesn't have a lot to note, but it did have 3 different drivers, so let's dig in. The first to drive the 77 for Penske would be Brendan Gaughan. He would come to the stable after the merger with Jasper Motorsports previously mentioned. He would run one season, 2004, and the results were less than ideal. 1 top 5 coming at Talladega and 4 top 10s. He would ultimately finish 28th in the standings. After Brendan Gaughan would be let go, Travis Kvapil would take the ride. It honestly just goes downhill from here. Kvapil would finish 33rd in the standings, with 0 top 5s and 2 top 10s on the season. Seeing that combination didn't work, the Penske 77 would sit dormant for the 2006 and 2007 seasons. It would make a return in 2008, with Sam Hornish Jr. behind the wheel. Hornish would have an abysmal season, finishing 35th in the standings and failing to qualify for 2 races. There would be no top 10s on the season either, with a best finish of 13th coming at Charlotte. 2009 would see improvement, but not success. Hornish would finish 28th in the standings and would record 2 top 5s at Pocono and Michigan. He would also have 6 top 10s as well. His final season with the number and the number's last for Penske would be 2010. Hornish would slide backwards, finishing 29th in the standings with only 1 top 10 and 0 top 5s. And I wanted to touch on some obscure numbers here as well, starting with the 02. Ryan Newman would run 8 races in the 02 between 2000 and 2001. He would come so close to victory at Kansas in 2001, finishing 2nd in just his 6th start. He would collect 2 top 5s in the 02 in just 8 starts, and that's honestly pretty impressive. Next is the 06. Chad Blunt and Travis Kvapil would make select starts in the 06 in 2004. Blunt would only make 1, coming at Talladega, while Kvapil would make 3 starts with it. Sam Hornish would then bring the 06 back in 2007. He would attempt to qualify for 8 events, but failed to qualify for the first 6 races, only making the field in 2 of them, at Phoenix and Homestead to end the season. And finally, there's the 33 of Austin Cindric that would run in 2021. Cindric is a bit of an interesting story. He was originally slated to take over the Wood Brothers 21 ride, but when Brad Keselowski announced his plans to leave the team, they would put him in the 2 instead. Cindric would impress in his time with the 33, running well and leading laps at COTA and bringing home a 9th place finish at the first Indy Road Course event. And now that we have done the deep dive on Team Penske's Cup Series program, I want to highlight some of their success in other series. And we're going to start this out with the IndyCar Series. While it has held many different names since Roger Penske entered, it is no secret that he is the king of the series. Just look at these stats. They entered the IndyCar Series in 1968, and they've collected 235 total wins with 24 championships. They've also won their crown jewel event, the Indy 500, a staggering 19 times. Penske not only dominates the sport, but he literally owns it. What he is doing for the sport is unmatched. I never really watched it before, but I am slowly getting more into it, and I think Roger has a big part in that. He got his start in racing here, so without this success, we may not have them in NASCAR today, or at the very least, the same capacity. And speaking of NASCAR, now we pivot to their Xfinity Series program. Let's take a look at their stats there. Their first year in the Xfinity Series was 1997, and since that time, they've won 81 total races with 2 championships. For a program that got its start in 1997, their success is nothing short of incredible. I do wonder why they would leave the Xfinity Series following the 2021 season. I hope they bring that program back. That was definitely a great ride for an up-and-comer to cut their teeth in for sure. And now we move on to memorable moments. And we knew this one was coming. Divine, Nathan, User OT, Bronze Cookie, Joseph, and Hot Dog mentioned the 2015 payback between Kenseth and Logano at Martinsville. I'm probably not the best suited person to talk about this, as I have a pretty heavy opinion on it. But regardless of opinions, it was certainly one of the biggest moments to come out of the 2010s. And then Sam Car Collection and Salt Bomb mentioned Sam Hornish Jr.'s 77 car that led to NASCAR banning it and making rule changes immediately. This is a cool story. At the 2008 All-Star race, the Penske 77 held a secret underneath. The rear-end housing of the car was angled towards the outside wall, which at the time defied all conventional wisdom. The result of this was a phenomenon known as yaw or crab walking. It helped generate side force and grip. Its ability to navigate the corners effectively sideways perplexed fans and drivers alike. This led to NASCAR banning this and limiting angles of the rear end housing. Hornish would win the All-Star Open and was called Sideways Sam because of the way he essentially drifted around the corners. This is an awesome mention. And then the gamer mentioned Rusty Wallace's Midnight car. It is customary for Penske to name their cars after a win. I mean, Joey Logano named his Atlanta winning car in 2023 the Beast. Well, Rusty Wallace would win a race at Richmond at midnight, and thus the car was named Midnight, which inspired the term Midnight Rider. Great mention. And then Christian from Discord mentioned Ryan Blaney and Joseph Newgarden winning the Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600 on the same day during the 2023 season. This is an incredible accomplishment as a team, and I'm certain Roger Penske was one happy camper after this one. And that'll do it for the history of Team Penske. This was just as fun as the last one. Thanks for being so awesome, guys. As always, I'm prone to forgetting drivers and moments. Let me know anything I may have missed for Team Penske down below. The next team featured will be Richard Childress Racing, as voted on by you, the viewer. So be sure to let me know your honorable mentions down below. The poll in the community tab after the video comes out will be for the team that comes after Childress. Be sure to get your vote in there as well. This series will be a twice a month one to go hand in hand with track history and Xfinity Series number history. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. It helps a ton and I definitely appreciate it. And did you know that 77% of my viewers aren't subscribed, but they are returning viewers? If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? We also have a Discord server. Find the invite in the About section of the channel or in the description below. We share our silly season picks, merch collections, race reaction, exclusive contests, and so much more over there. We have over 140 members now, and there's always a great conversation that happens daily. And I also want to give a shout out to the Dogleg team for all their hard work in making the channel and videos as good as they can be. Thanks Dice, Darksy, and the Gamer for all your contributions. It definitely doesn't go unnoticed. But that'll do it for us here at Dogleg Media. I'm Matt, your host, and you've been watching NASCAR Team History. I'll see you next time.